So now you have, so for instance, if I show here, I have a lot of these moon ores, but of course this is a T2 industry class, and so we have a long ways to go. Yeah, I have all these ores here, but if I bring up the recipe for any T2 ship, it will hardly contain sort of dysprosium or neodymium, so I have sort of more work to do, and this work comes in the form of reactions. Okay, so if I open up the industry window, you will see that I have these job things. So manufacturing jobs are a type of job, science jobs are a type of job, reactions are themselves a special type of job, and as you can see, it has their own skills, just like mass production, advanced mass production, mass reactions, advanced mass reactions, yada yada. I have 10 slots because this is a reaction character, so on and so forth, right? And these reaction skills are found somewhat paradoxically in resource processing. I don't know why that is, but anyway, mass reactions here. Remote reactions, which is the same as the
Gula
other
Maru Hunter
remote
SB00N entered channel.
remote reactions, which is your classic utility skill for remote management of these things. The reaction skill, which is a rather more generous than others and giving a 4% reduction per train, so train to 5C as you hear for a pretty good reduction. And so that advanced mass reactions, that's basically it for reactions. You have reactions 5, you have reactions, remote reactions, mass reactions, advanced mass reactions, and that's basically it for T2 anyway. There's others, but we won't get into that. So that's all you need to worry about skills wise. The one thing I will mention is that although you might think, so like alphas cannot train, I don't think, mass reactions, but they still get one slot base because everyone gets one slot base and everything. Alphas cannot do reactions because they cannot train this skill past, I think, 1, even though every single reaction in the game has a specific skill requirement of at least 2 or 3. So just putting that out there, alphas reactions, no, doesn't work, doesn't exist. Okay, omega only. That's just how it is, right? You know, accept it. Okay, and so just how manufacturing has your standard manufacturing plants in an upwell mechanics will not be explained here, but whatever, you have your manufacturing plant in upwell, and reactions are a bit more complicated. God damn it. So as you can see here, there are 3 types of reactors: biochemical, composite, and hybrid, and correspondingly there are 3 types of reactions corresponding to 3 areas of the game. So biochemical is for drug manufacturing, which you can talk to our resident drug lord Jinx the Care, I think, on that. Hybrid is tech-free, which is weird and not as complicated as T2, but it's not going to be discussed here. And this is what we want. This composite reactor. This does composite reactions, which are all the every reaction I'm about to talk about is a composite reaction. The other 2 can be ignored, but they are separate. They are separate services. So, you know, if you want to do them, you need that thing online and in a structure, but they do all take up those same 10 slots. Right, so you can do sort of 5 biochemical and 5 composite reactions, but you can't do sort of 10 of each. Right, they all share the same reaction slot system and all the same skills. So what is a good example of a composite reaction? Let's go. Well, okay, there's 2 stages of composite reactions. We're not quite there yet, though. Let's just look through my inventory. There they are. Okay, so these are loads of composite reactions, just randomly scattered around. I just moved some stuff here just for demonstration purposes. Ignore the ones that say unrefined for now. So there are 2 stages of reactions, right? 2 very distinct stages. You go from raw moon materials, so this is what you reprocess from the moon, or this is what has the sort of element symbol on it and is an element except for the R4s which aren't. You go from these to what are called intermediate materials in one reaction step. So one reaction will bring you from some moon materials to some quantity of some intermediate materials. Then a further reaction will bring you from some quantity of intermediates, from 2 to 4, to some quantity of what I call composites, which are the final reaction step. So there are 2 steps of reactions. They are completely self-contained, so there's no sort of weird parts where you need some intermediates and some raw moon materials mixed together or something. It's all very contained. Raw, intermediates, composites, that's it, right? Oh, I think I sort of skipped over myself. So what is a reaction? It's quite complicated because you have, if you want to manufacture something, you have a blueprint. So I have some blueprints here for components, which will be gone over later. You have a blueprint, you can research a blueprint. This is 1020, you know, you can copy a blueprint, you can copy a blueprint, as can be seen here. Reactions are a bit different. You still need them to do the job, but you cannot research them. There's no research, there's no METE, all of these are grayed out, doesn't work. You know, you cannot copy them, you have to have them. So for instance, you might wonder, why does he have 6 ceramic fibers or, I don't know, 12 plasmonic metamaterials? I mean, why can't you just copy one? It's because if I want to be able to run 12 of those jobs at the same time, I need 12 of those reactions. I can't just accrue copies or something. I cannot do that. I need to have those en masse. And so that's why, for instance, if I go further down to these, I also have many of these just because throughput, because some of these can take quite a long time to build. But if I look at, oh no, I didn't transfer that over, never mind. But like, if you look at my BBC library, for example, which is on another character, he only has one of each because you don't just need to copy what you need, right? For this, you do need to sort of accumulate lots. These reactions themselves are sold by NPCs, although you can very often get better prices at Jita because people sort of do sell-offs, and so you can get pretty big discounts. The intermediates cost 10 million each. The other ones cost, the intermediates cost 10 million each. The composites
Steel
cost 20
Tooth
million
Slice
each.
wins X and entered channel.
Bit late. Anyway, the intermediates cost 10 million each. The composites cost 20 million each from NPC stations that are just dotted around all the place. They're tiny like blueprints, so there's no sort of problems with that. So what about actually during a reaction? So let's look at a random reaction. This is Hex Site. This is an intermediate. That is to say, it goes to an intermediate from raw materials. All of the intermediates use 100 of each raw, and they use 2 raws. And they also need fuel blocks, which, unlike upwells, they will need a specific fuel block, so you can't just bring any type, and they will give you some amount of an output. As you can see, they have a base duration of 3 hours. This is, as you can see, this is modified by skills, so it shows here 224. It's not. This is a 3-hour base, and then dependent on skills it will go down. The other things that will affect TE are rigs. Obviously there are rigs for reaction TE. There are also rigs for reaction ME actually, so you can't research these, but you can get rigs that will lower the ME and make it cheaper, and they're a big part of making T2 profitable, obviously. And the Tatara, which is the larger version of the Athanor, the large-sized refinery, has an innate 25% reduction in the time taken to do reactions, on top of what you might give it with rigs, etc. So a rig Tatara is obviously the best of the best, so to speak, in this sort of scenario. So as you can see, these can take quite a while. So it's like, and this is for just 200 Promethean. Like, this probably isn't enough Promethean for a single ship, let alone a large sort of batch. So these can be very time consuming. You need a lot of alts. This alt is one of many, well, not that many, but certainly more than one, that can do reactions, and that sort of capacity is needed. So Tech 2, I mean, definitely sort of big sort of capital thing. So if I show here, that's quite a lot in formulas, 2.8 billion, and I don't even think that's all of them. I think I have some others straddled around all over the place. So yeah. So as you can see, we have 2 inputs, block, output takes 3 hours or equivalent, etc. They have the maximum run thing. I don't really know where that varies from 1 to 1, but it tends to be quite low, so that's actually often something to take into account. Okay, that's sort of intermediate reactions done, and everything I've said can be applied to the next step up. So there's a sort of a reaction step that goes from base to intermediate, and another that goes from intermediate to composite. The only difference is that all the intermediates take as inputs 2 moon materials in identical quantities, all of the composites take as inputs 2 to 4 intermediates with varying quantities, so it gets a bit more complicated there, but otherwise it's the sort of same principle. You still need a fuel block input, you still need the skills, the time is all the same. I think the base is still 3 hours for those, although I can check very quickly. Yeah, the base is still 3 hours, as you can see, and the output, I think the output of all the others is 100 or 200. Yeah, the output of all the others is 200, as you can see, but the output of the composite ones can be from 300 terahertz metamaterials to 10,000 tungsten carbide, etc., etc. So the composites are a bit more varied in sort of inputs and outputs, but otherwise they're mostly the same, right?